Hello everybody. Welcome to the Queen's Road Bus Depot in Manchester. You're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page, and there are hundreds of people here waving their flags and expressing their ire about what's going on in this depot that you can see just here to my left. It's one of the biggest bus depots in Manchester, and they're going through a fire and rehire scheme. And today the People's Assembly and other groups have organised a cavalcade of cars which is going to be coming down this road here and ending up with a rally. So the cars should be arriving any minute. Obviously it's traffic, so we'll have to be a bit patient. And we're having to socially distance and all that kind of thing, so I'm on my own today. I don't have an assistant. And as you can see, there are masks. We've got lots of stewards, but let's see if we can grab a word with some of the people who are here. So, all right, folks, we're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page. Anyone want to have a chat about what's going on here? You point a finger at anybody who wants to speak to us. Have a word? No? Okay. Yeah, come on, Andy. Where's your shop steward? Have you not got a shop steward guy? Okay, well if they're... Great, thanks very much. Sam, is it?
Yes, hello.
Hello mate, you're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Hello.
Can you, let's make sure you're on here. Yes, there you are, great. Can you tell us what's going on here today, why you're here?
Yeah, so obviously there's a large group of us. I think it's called the Cavalcade, where there's going to be some sort of procession coming round Boyle Street, where the Queen's Road Depot is located, and then carrying on, I think, round Cheetham Mill Road, showing solidarity against fire and rehire.
And what's that about? Are you a bus driver as well? Or?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So what does that mean for you? What are they trying to do to your contract and your terms of employment?
So basically take away up to £10,000 worth of sick pay, and £2,500 to £3,000 of normal working conditions, and obviously in a time when there's coronavirus, it's abhorrent.
Oh, there we go. Looks like there's some cars coming down now.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for
You're welcome.
to us, and all the best with your dispute.
Thank you very much. Solidarity.
You too. Nice one, mate.
Of course, You got a cig? All they was empties, mate. You don't want an empty.
Okay. So there are cars coming in. I'm not sure how much of a cavalcade there is. Certainly Manchester People's Assembly coming up from Disbury, which is about an hour's drive, the work route they've taken. But look at that. Socially distanced, but all of these unite the union, unite community.
Is everyone on the field now?
Do you have a word, Liam?
Yeah, I can have a word.
Yeah, great. So just stand there so I can get the... So I'm here with Liam Smythe, who from Manchester People's Assembly. What's going on here, Liam? What's brought you out today?
Well, I'm just here in solidarity with all these great workers. I think it's great to make a stand against this repressive Tory government and everything, that the attacks on workers' rights. It's not on, and it's time we stood up and said no more.
And it seems like there are lots of different groups getting involved. I mean, it's not just one thing that people are pissed off about, is it?
No, it's quite a few. I think this is a culmination of things. Everything's going to come to a head pretty soon. It's great to see Unite down here having an all-out strike. I think that's great. I think, you know, if they don't do it, then the industry, they'll do it industry-wide, these bus companies.
They are taking the opportunity. It's the shock doctrine, isn't it? It's the bosses taking the opportunity of the pandemic, of changed conditions to try and just basically screw the workers again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's classic exploitation, really. They're using a pandemic as cover to do what they want, and it's not on. These are key workers. None of these have stopped working. You know, they've always cracked on and got on with it. You know, how many bus drivers have caught COVID and seriously ill? So now's not the right time to fire and rehire. That's why I say up the workers, down with the bosses, back the unions.
Solidarity, brother. Nice one.
Cheers.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so just up here, conveniently placed by the back doors of the bus depot, we've got a rallying point. You want to talk to us, Ian?
Not now. At some point.
Okay. All right then, mate. Liam, if you see anybody who I could speak to.
James Quinn, isn't it?
Who's he?
Coddy.
Hey?
What's up, Coddy?
Oh, okay.
James, let's say a few words for the People's Assembly.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Hello, mate. We're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
Liam tells me you're from Corrie.
Well, I do. I work in Coronation from time to time as a policeman. You know, we have a rotation of coppers. I've done 30 years service now. As a copper, I've still not had a pension. It's just not. But anyway, it's great to be here today. I've been involved in supporting the bus workers for a few years now in various disputes. A great bunch of people, key workers who, at this of all the times to slap this on them, is extraordinary, really. But there's a really good body of support, and we're in close touch with the drivers, and we're going to keep that support going in whatever way we can.
It is an astonishing time for them to try and pull something like this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also in a way predictable, because this is where employers, I suppose, are looking at this dispute and saying, well, if Go North West can put one over on the drivers, they can get this through, then it will be open season for other transport companies and other employers as well. So that's why it's important, and what I've noticed is the great breadth of support, the different parts of the community, pensioners, residents, political activists, obviously Labour Council, but we've got to keep it going. The talks have broken down, so it's really important now that we intensify the support in whatever way we can. But they are a top bunch of people. They don't deserve to be treated like this. And I think for everybody, we want our services to be run by people who are happy and well treated, and we can't stand by and allow this to happen.
And how do you feel about the response to protest? I mean, you know, there's quite a lot of people here, a lot of masks, quite socially distanced, but it's a very difficult time to express yourself, isn't it?
It is, but in a way, those are the conditions that we face. So we have to work out, and people have done a lot of work, as you can see today, where people are being well marshalled and spreading out, and you can do it. You know, you can protest in certain ways, as long as you stay socially distanced. You just got to think there's been risk assessments of certain protests that have been done in support of the drivers. So there's an awful lot of thinking going on as well as action. So we'll continue to do that, and it's absolutely vital that we do. And anybody listening, anyway, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, keep an eye on social media of what's going on, and please do support the drivers in any way you can.
Brilliant. Thanks for talking to us. Have a good day.
All the best.
Going up right over there. It'll be gone.
Cheers,
It's gone.
Jim.
It's gone.
More famous for the early doors.
Oh, of course, right.
Try and won't crack itself.
Nice to meet you.
You
was
too.
your name?
I'm Rafe.
Rafe.
Yes.
James.
So you've been live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Thank you.
If you go to the People's Assembly, go to videos.
Yeah.
You'll be on there. And we've got loads of people watching at the moment.
Great, excellent.
So nice one. So hello. Okay. So we've just been joined by Callum Nolan, the convener of Manchester People's Assembly.
Co-convener.
So how are you, Callum?
I'm fantastic. It's just nice to see so many people socially distanced and grafting for the workers. Very, very happy. I've literally just turned up, so I'm a bit taken aback. I've only seen like 1 or 2 people for a year, so to see a few hundred like this and the Unite flags and the bands and stuff. Solidarity, man. It's good, isn't it?
It's amazing. I can't believe it. We're live on the People's Assembly Against Austerity national page. That's what
Just
it
pumping
is.
out
This
all
is
with the legend. That's Eddie Redmond.
Eddie Redmond. Nice one. Eddie, we're live on the People's Assembly Facebook. We're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page. So tell us what's brought you out. I mean, I know these industrial disputes are important to you.
I think, it's the total crassness of hire and fire, where working class people who've worked all the way through the pandemic are going to be sacked, and they're being told that they're going to lose up to £2,000 a year on the wages. It just doesn't fit. It's these people have kept a service going to get workers into work to keep the economy going, and then they get treated like this. It's just repugnant behaviour. It really is. It really is.
Absolutely. Nice one, mate. And have we got events planned in the People's Assembly, Manchester People's Assembly? We got anything coming up, or?
Well, we're going to do a very one. We're looking to link up with Sisters Uncut, and then we're going to try and do a Kill the Bill protest targeting 2 MPs' offices in North and South Bury. So that'll be done by the People's Assembly, and we're just in negotiations to get a key speaker down from Sisters Uncut from that.
Fantastic. And we've got the People's Assembly national demo as well on the 26th of June, I believe, down in the Smoke.
Yeah.
So that's happening.
Well, yeah, hopefully that we're going to try and get the trade union movement to mobilise for that, and we'll go from there on that one. We're going to push it hard through the trade union movement as well, who fully support the People's Assembly, by the way. I mean, those are our key allies within these fight for jobs and the fight for rights for workers.
Sound brilliant, mate. See you soon. Hello, Karen.
Hiya,
It's me
me
again.
again.
Yes, we're now live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
All right.
I mean, we had a little chat earlier at the rallying point for the Cavalcade.
That's right.
But Karen, if you could tell the national page a little bit about what you've been going through in the last few weeks.
Well, I'm a health worker, so for the last year we've been going through a year of not having the right PPE, not having enough beds, not having enough staff, dealing with people in a way that we really don't want to, cancelling all the non-emergency, and it's been really traumatic for the patients, for their relatives and for the staff. And when we got a 1% offer, people were fuming. We organised a social distance safe protest, 40 people, and the police gave me a £10,000 fine for doing so. And we weren't interested in whether it was safe or not. You couldn't have been safer. We're health workers. We know how to do safe protests. They weren't interested in that. They were only interested in trying to stop us protesting. They want to deter things like this because they know that what they're doing to working class people is terrible, and they know that people are angry and they don't want them to come out and say that. And we know we've always won things when we've come out on the streets, when we've come out on strike. That's how you win things. That's how I got a vote, through women coming out on the streets and fighting. That's how ordinary working class people got a vote, by coming out on the streets. And I just think that we have to say we are staying, we're not going away, we're not being deterred, and this is an illustration of that.
Excellent. And about that £10,000 fine, I mean, there are a couple of things there. As you say, for one, it was clearly a well-marshalled rally. There's lots of video evidence of that. But also, I understand that the £10,000, somebody set up a crowdfunder for you.
They did. It was a well-organised rally. To be honest, we shut it down. When they insisted that we shut it down, we shut it down. So why then I got a fine? And you're right, within 2 hours of somebody putting up a crowdfunder page, we'd raised more than the £10,000 of the fine. Not that I'm paying it, and that is solidarity, and that does reflect the fact that people want the right to protest. But I'm not paying it because I don't think it's a fair fine. I will be taking them to court, and we'll see what happens in the courts.
Fantastic, Karen. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
To today's rally. You look absolutely fantastic. This is what solidarity looks like. I know there's more people coming from town and making their way gradually in, so if everybody can make sure we're spread out, fully socially distanced across the whole field, there'll be room for anybody who arrives a little bit late to come into the field and still be safe. For those that don't know me, my name's Ian Allington. I'm the Industrial Action Coordinator for Manchester Trades Council, which is the umbrella organisation for unions across the city. It's fantastic to be here today. Finally, we're able to gather here physically together and show our solidarity and feel our strength. We've got apologies today from John Morgan, who's President of the Trades Council, who would have been chairing this rally, but unfortunately he's got caring responsibilities, so you'll have to put up with me instead. Today's event has been jointly organised by Manchester Trades Council and the People's Assembly Against Austerity, who organised that magnificent cavalcade that we just welcomed up the road. So after that, we're going to have a brief rally here today and then a circular march to make sure everybody can see us and hear us and know the support and strength there is behind this important strike. A few words about safety. If you can, please wear a mask. That's important for keeping us safe, and also we want to make sure that it can't be claimed that we're not keeping each other safe, because we know that people who oppose the strike will like to use anything they can to undermine the campaign. So please make sure that if you're able to wear a mask, you do, and that you maintain 2 metres social distancing from anyone not in your household wherever possible. Please avoid passing objects or touching things if you possibly can. We're going to be sanitising everything we possibly can to try and keep people safe who are speaking as well. We've got spare masks down here, and I know there's others knocking around if you need them. We've got sanitiser available. And I'd ask, people have been fantastic, if you keep well back from the speakers, because in order to be heard, we're not wearing masks while we're speaking generally, because it comes through much more clearly on the microphone. So we want lots of space so that you're not picking up any droplets from us. So we've got a great lineup of speakers for you. We're asking them to keep to just 3 to 5 minutes each. Some of you have already been on the cavalcade, and we want to have time for people to have a good march. Our first speaker will be known, I think, to most of you, because he's been absolutely at the centre of this strike, one of the Unite reps and branch officers, Colin Hayden.
First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for coming today, to the Manchester TUC and the People's Assembly for supporting us in our quest to overturn this abhorrent act that our employer has taken to fire and rehire our key worker drivers. This strike is now in day 35. we have taken the approach to go out on strike indefinitely, because we have been dealing with what can only be described as an aggressive employer. His aggressive tactics, the company's aggressive tactics, to fire and rehire up to 500 bus drivers and employers back on less terms and conditions. Attack our sick pay, make us work longer each week for no extra pay, is absolutely abhorrent, and we should not allow it in our society, and we should not allow companies to operate in our society when they conduct them in this manner. Day 35 of the strike. Look around you. We're solid. Our members are solid. We are out and we are staying out. It's as simple as that. Some people put negatives in the press, they put negatives on social media. Have a look around you, brothers and sisters. We are out and we are staying out. We will not return under these inferior conditions. We will fight this company with every element of our trade union and the labour movement around us. I don't know what else to say now, bloody hell. But honestly, from the bottom of our hearts as the drivers and the strikers, thank you for the support we've had. From day one, the community, the labour movement has rallied round, and it's been immense. It's absolutely humbling. For me personally, it's an absolute honour to chair this branch. This depot that you see over here on the right hand side, been providing public transport in this city, in this region since 1901. We always will supply transport to this city. We don't care whose name's above the door to do it. But our drivers will stand fast and we will be here to the end. Thanks very much.
I'll just put my chair in a minute, just so I can put my chair on my waist. Make my arm side.
Thanks, Colin, and we all know that just as we're all here to support the drivers, their strike is for all of us, because we know that if employers get away with fire and rehire, if they get away with cutting jobs, cutting pay, making people work without breaks, cutting sick pay, and all the other changes they want to make, if they get away with it here, every employer in the land is going to think they can get away with it too. Fire and rehire is already spreading, and we need to stop it here. And that means we've all got a responsibility to help these strikers win. Our next speaker is Karen Buckley from the Manchester People's Assembly Against Austerity, that organised the Cavalcade earlier and that have been doing a tremendous job building solidarity with the strike.
Yes, Karen!
Hi, thank you everyone. So as he said, I'm Karen Buckley and I'm from Manchester People's Assembly Against Austerity. Just a quick one, just before I do start, it's just to say that there is a national demonstration in London on the 26th of June that the National People's Assembly are organising. So I'm just getting you to all just put that in your, just in your diaries, and there'll be more information to follow on the Facebook pages, newsletters, etc. But anyway, I'm really pleased to see everyone here today, and it's great that many of you have joined us and in the Cavalcade earlier as well. So it's important we stand in support and solidarity with our Go North West bus strikers. Fire and rehire and the boss's attempt to employ vastly inferior contracts onto its key workers, especially during a pandemic, is really outrageous, it's insulting and it's utterly disgraceful. But it's inspiring to see this fight back from our courageous strikers and the power of the unionised collective to stand up against profiteering bosses, which is what we're seeing here. This attempt to drive down pay terms and conditions is all part of a bigger picture. Since Margaret Thatcher came to power 30 years ago, she's brought in a particularly aggressive system that's carried on where privatisation over public ownership has took over. These are services we owned that have been sold off for profit, so people can make private profits. And unions were often undermined as a way of continuing this. So nothing could be allowed to stop this privatising, profiteering machine. So we've seen a number of our public services, such as buses, as well as utilities, privatised one by one. These private companies then put profits and shareholder dividends above all else. As we're seeing at Go North West buses, to achieve higher profits, they drive down the pay, terms and the conditions of their workers and often put up the cost to the customers. I'm old enough to remember when buses were decent, bus drivers had decent jobs, and remember when it was actually quite cheap to get on a bus, which is so different to now. So the People's Assembly campaigns against austerity, and austerity is part of this same system. The government, usually the Tories, convince the public that there's not enough money for public services, that the economy is like a household budget, which it isn't, and the private sector can run things more efficiently. They then either cut, underfund or privatise our public services. This is all whilst giving tax breaks to their wealthy mates, the big business owners, and then whenever they need to, they pull out the magic money tree. So it's, you know, it's a system that's rigged, and we need to be really know that and fight against it. So in this system, wages, you know, workers' wages are cut. We lose hard-won terms and conditions. Nurses don't get a pay rise. But it's more than that. Our arts and grassroots venues collapse. State pensions become the lowest in Europe. Welfare benefits get cut. Council budgets are cut. PIP is taken from disabled people who rely on these for a dignified life. Funding is cut from schools and NHS and so on. Most of the mainstream media either don't properly report these things, or they conveniently leave out convenient sort of facts that they don't like out of the narrative. So the powerful won't give us a voice to speak against them. So it's essential we're in unions and we speak with our collective voice and we fight back. When I was younger, most people in the area I lived in were in a union. Industrial disputes politicised people. They showed people the power of collective action and solidarity, and they gave workers confidence. So what I'm seeing with Go North West strikers is this spirit. This fight is our fight. If the bosses get away with imposing fine ReHire, bosses throughout the country will be emboldened to do the same. We've got no friends in the mainstream media, no court or divinity that's going to fight for us. We must come together, we must fight for ourselves, we must organise ourselves, and we must win ourselves. There ain't no justice, just us. Solidarity, brothers and sisters.
Yes, Karen.
Thanks very much, Karen. Part of the issue here with Go North West is that we've got this deregulated, chaotic public transport system, and we know that has to change. So behind Go North West, we have sitting Transport for Greater Manchester. We have the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, who could be putting enormous pressure on the company to resolve the dispute. So there's a political dimension to this too, so it's been fantastic to see a growing number of MPs and councillors coming out demanding that Go North West treats workers more fairly. And one of the first of these was the local MP Graham Stringer, so it's great to introduce him to speak here today.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here to support and show solidarity with the strikers of Unite. It's great to see other people here showing support and solidarity. This isn't the first time during this strike I've been on this field. It's a nice sunny afternoon, but it's a tribute to the fortitude of the strikers that 3 weeks ago, when it was freezing cold, hailstone, driving rain, there were just as many strikers on that street outside the depot waving the flags as there are here today. It's a real tribute to them. There are two focuses of this strike and dispute, and in many ways they're similar to most disputes. One is against appalling management. Just simply, I talked to the people on strike, and the personality and attitude of the management is quite simply a disgrace. The second objective, and this is where the strikers here are in the vanguard of a dispute that's national or against fire and ReHire. Fire and ReHire means that there is no point in having a contract of employment. It effectively wipes out your terms and conditions if a company like Go Northwest or any other bus company or any other company can just say you're fired and we'll rehire you on worse wages and worse terms. That simply is not acceptable. But as the previous speaker said, this is not just an industrial dispute in a vacuum. It is about the future of public transport. In the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher privatised and deregulated the transport system, which means that bus companies came in, individuals like the owners of many of these bus companies have become multi-millionaires, and in Stagecoach's case, a billionaire. They've taken profit out of the system that should be going to invested in better quality buses and invested in decent terms and conditions for workers. One of the small steps of progress is that the decision has been taken now to re-regulate the buses. That must be the first step, re-regulation, and then to bring buses back into public ownership so that we have public transport that actually delivers for the public under democratic control. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Graham, and that last point couldn't be more important when we all know that lurking behind the coronavirus crisis we've got an even bigger climate crisis, and we know that having more, better and more affordable public transport is going to be absolutely essential to making sure that we have a future that's livable for everybody. So we can't afford to leave our public transport in the hands of these privateers who put profit above all else. I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Richie James, who's the Regional Secretary of Unite, the union that's been backing the workers here throughout.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with a thank you for the weeks and weeks and weeks of solid support we've had, not just from the strikers, from the community, from the school, from everybody who's heard, seen, witnessed what's been going on. They've all come out and rallied round the strikers who've led a magnificent fight against an employer who's hell-bent on introducing a plan that was put together in October 2019. Pre-COVID, just after they'd acquired the business, they came up with a plan to actually move things forward and strip the conditions away from workers. And because they couldn't do that, they introduced fire and hire. So a couple of things I want to deal with, and that's the feet and fibs. Every Friday there's a news sheet that comes out from the MD where he tells everybody his view of the world. But the reality of it is, when we sat in those meetings on Zooms, actually in the meeting here I had with him on the 5th of August, we offered as a trade union to try and improve the financial position of the company because it was losing money. No two ways about that. 2 weeks later he suspended Colin, and then he introduced fire and rehire. We then met him again a couple of months later, and then on 23rd of December we actually put forward to him another plan. He left the meeting saying it's the best meeting he's been at, he's optimistic about the future, and then what he did, he executed and implemented fire and rehire. He gave everybody 8 days to sign the new contracts. A threat to everyone's family, a threat to their employment, and a threat to our trade union. I have to say, people took a decision based on their needs for the family, which we all respect, but it left the trade union in a position where the company had effectively introduced fire and rehire, and we've been fighting ever since to recover from that position. Last week, or the week before, can't actually remember, everything's been a bit of a blur on Zoom with this fella. But the ultimate was this: he came on Tuesday of last week saying he regrets doing what he's done. He wants to work with us. He wants to turn the place round. He wants workers to understand he only wants the best for the business and the best for them. We all were shocked and stunned, and then lo and behold, he went back to type. and he introduced with us, he actually threatened last week that he wanted to close the garage if he didn't get his own way. And what we've done over the many meetings with this guy is establish exactly what it's about. And what it is about is pushing back, stripping away what people will understand to be skinny contracts. Those people who've worked in the industry for a number of years will understand what skinny contracts are. They've got no other protections other than the basic rate of pay for maximum hours working. And he said, unless you get 130 hours work out of you or attendances at work, don't bother coming up. That's what he expects you to do. Another 3 weeks turning up here, unpaid, putting some time and effort in so we can organise the work. He then said, thanks very much for the £1.3 million worth of savings, but I want to cut the sick pay. You know, I hate to say it, but we've had a fatality. A driver lost his life, COVID related here, and this guy just takes no notice whatsoever. So we've ended up in a situation trying to deal with someone who's quite adamant he wants the relationship to be as basic as it can possibly be. I pay you, you do as you're told, get on with it, and that's the end of it. We're not going to have that, and you're not going to have that. So our fight back is here, it does start here, but more importantly than ever before, we've seen it now. 1 in 10 workers are affected by fire and rehire nationally. That's a lot of people. We haven't joined up our campaigns yet, but we need to do that. In the East Midlands, at Heathrow, up in Preston, where we've got Rotala, actually saying to people, we will introduce fire and rehire unless you get vaccinated with COVID, with the vaccine. Now, we are pro-vaccination as a union, but we are pro-choice. For an employer to tell people what they can inject into their body and tell them that they're going to have to do it, otherwise they'll lose the job, is a step too far. So our position is, it's not just about starting here. We won't be happy as a trade union or as a trade union movement until the legislation is changed and it's removed from the statute books. Bad employers are using bad legislation against good workers, decent workers, who fought for years to protect their conditions of employment. We're going to end it there, colleagues, except to say thank you again for the support you've given us, and thank you for the support you're going to give us in the weeks to come. Thank you.
Just give you a little idea of how many people are in this field here.
Thanks, Richie, and that support has taken many forms, and it's been really quite alarming, I think, during the course of this dispute to see the government trying to introduce new legislation to restrict people's right to protest. You know, when the rich and powerful can get away with what they want, our ability to demonstrate and take to the streets and take strike action is essential to a democratic society. So it's a delight to be able to introduce another Unite activist, but who's speaking today on behalf of Sisters Uncut, that have played such an important part in opposing both gendered violence and the attempts to restrict our right to protest with the new policing bill.
Thanks, Ian, and thank you, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Sisters Uncut to offer our unreserved solidarity to the brave strikers at Go North West. Solidarity from us. Sisters Uncut organised to reverse cuts to domestic and sexual violence services and to end state and gendered violence across the board. In the last month, we have been part of a movement that began in response to the murder of Sarah Everard, allegedly by a cop, and that movement has grown into a brilliant defiance of the state's increasing authoritarianism. Sisters Uncut are organising against the police, crime, sentencing and courts bill that threatens all our civil liberties. This bill seeks to extend police power. It will make working conditions more dangerous for sex workers. It will criminalise Gypsy, Roma and traveller communities' ways of life. It will increase stop and search that targets black, brown and working class people, and it will reduce all police accountability. This bill will empower the cops who have had 1,500 accusations of sexual abuse made against them in just 6 years, and see more cops like PC Oliver Bamfield walk free and straight back into his job, just like he did this last month, after he grabbed a woman in the street by her neck, dragged her to the ground, and used techniques he'd been taught in police training. And in case we forget, comrades, this bill will criminalise resistance. This bill gives the state and police power to criminalise protests like this one simply for being annoying or disruptive. But protest seeks to disrupt because we are here to disrupt. We are here to disrupt the bosses, the government, and the abusers who hold power over us. We are here to annoy those in power. We are here to challenge because we are here to win. Just like how the state has tried to crush the strengths of unions to fight back, to strike like you are, to survive the exploitation of bosses in the way that you are, the state now seeks to crush all dissent. But we will not accept it. The state bosses and some abusers win by divide and rule. They say that you over there as drivers have these needs, and you over there as women and non-binary people have those needs. As if women and non-binary people aren't workers ground down by exploitative bosses. And as if workers aren't affected by domestic and sexual violence, by the police, by austerity, and by all else that oppresses and exploits us all. As if this bill won't always and also criminalise trade union activities. The Shrewsbury 24 have just won their appeal after 49 years. 49 years! 49 years facing a violent state that backs up exploitative bosses. And that same violent state has ordered, stood by and excused cops brutalising people on the streets standing up for our civil liberties. We've all been out on the streets, and we will be back out on the streets to defend our right to picket, our right to blockade, our right to rally, our right to demonstrate, and our right to win. So, whilst the demands of Go North West drivers and Sisters Uncut are not identical point by point on the sheet, we know that our struggles are united. We are not united against those who would exploit and oppress us. We are united against the violent state, against cops who will brutalise and target us in demonstrations and at the picket lines and on the street. We are united against partners who abuse and against bosses who exploit. And for some of us, those are the same. We cannot let us tell them our struggles lie in separate directions, for that is how they win. We win by seeing how much more unites us than separates us. And because of that, together we will win. Solidarity.
Thanks very much for that powerful speech. Our last speech before we head off on our march is going to be from Annette Wright from Manchester Trades Council. And Annette, as well as being a representative from the Trades Council, is a local councillor in Manchester, and people might have seen this week the very good news that they've passed a motion opposing fire and rehire and attempting to restrict the awarding of contracts to companies that engage in it. And certainly I'd like to see everybody standing for election across all the local authorities in Greater Manchester, where Go Ahead is trying to, hawk its services. I'd like to see all of those candidates committing to that same policy of making sure that companies that behave like that don't get our money, don't get to run our services, and don't get to abuse workers in the way they have. So here you go, Annette.
Thanks, Ian. Hiya, folks. I'm speaking today on behalf of Manchester Trades Council, and I'm a workplace union rep in PCS Union. I have been for over 30 years. And I have to dig deep in my memory to recall a dispute as strong and important and inspiring to the rest of us as this dispute is. It's not easy going on indefinite strike, withdrawing your labour when there's no end date and there's no guarantee of success, because there never is. And you know that this success, your chances of success will come from your own resolve and your own strength. And I wonder whether this company thought at the start that perhaps this would soon be over. If it did think that, it was very, very wrong. It totally underestimated you, and it underestimated the strength of the trade union movement here in Manchester. From the start of this dispute, there have been picket lines where everybody's been fed, there's been a great atmosphere, there's been visits from politicians and actors and other trade unionists and just people who get the bus and know how important their bus drivers are. At the council, earlier this week at Manchester City Council, as Ian said, a motion moved by Councillor Julie Reid was carried, and it committed the local authority to refuse to contract with companies that use fire and rehire, and to include this not just in the contracting but in the social value and the procurement processes as well. If there's one thing Go North West has achieved so far, it has not just shone the spotlight on itself as a lousy company, it has shone the spotlight on others carrying out the same disgraceful practices as it is doing. And higher up at Greater Manchester, after years of public campaigning and public pressure, the Mayor Andy Burnham has come to the conclusion that the way this whole bus system is operating, with these companies earning huge amounts of money at the expense of their passengers, is not working, and he has pledged to try and get rid of the exorbitant fares and the inadequate routes and bring the buses back into local control. Far from these companies going out of the spotlight, the issue of bus companies, the way they are treating their passengers and the way they are treating their workers, is moving up and up the agenda, and your action has been a massive part of that. And of course, nationally we have the Tory government talking about key workers. I'm one of its key workers. It's paying those of us whose wages it controls either inadequate pay rises or no real pay rises at all. But when it talks to us about key workers, what workers are more key to very many of us than the other workers who drive us to our own workplaces so that we can do a day's work, and who drive us back home when our working day is over? You are the key workers in many of our minds. The only people who don't think so is your bosses. I want to say to this company, Go North West, go north, go west, go northern moor, go west Gorton, go wherever you want in this city, and you will find people who have far more respect from your own workers than you have managed to show to them. What I'd say to the strikers is part of your job now is to stay. Stay doing what you're doing. Stay strong. Stay united. And know that for as long as you stay, there are plenty of us who are going to stay by your side until this is over and until you have won. And let's all of us now resolve to do a bit more than we all have been doing. Those of us who are not on strike, you're all doing enough. But the rest of us, let's us go north, west, south and east, all around this city, making sure people know what this company is up to and how it is treating its workers and how brave the response of its workers has been. And for the moment, when Ian explains what's happening in a minute, let's all go march. Solidarity.
Thanks, Annette. And I would say to any of you that are here from union branches that aren't yet affiliated to Manchester Trades Council, if you've got people who work or live in Manchester, please do join us, because the stronger the movement is in the city, the more the Trades Council can help campaigns like this and disputes like this to have success. So you've all been incredibly patient listening to our fantastic speakers, and now's the moment where we're going to form up behind the strikers' own banner over there and march to a short circular march. But I would say this is the moment when it can all go horribly wrong, because that's a narrow gate and this is a big field. So we're all going to have to be quite patient and make sure we maintain our social distancing as we set off. If you're able to wear a mask, please make sure you're wearing one. And let's make sure that we're keeping ourselves and each other safe, and we're making ourselves seen, and we're making ourselves heard, and having a real impact. So solidarity, everybody.
Oh, that was a great set of speeches. Okay, so while they're forming up, hello mate.
Do you want to interview the prospective Communist Party candidate in Longside?
I'm happy to interview anyone. Yeah.
And he will make. He's got a statement, very clear statement, and he's also mentioning the People's Assembly in it. So
okay, happy to speak to anybody. Do you mind, Liam, holding on to it for a bit? Because I'll make sure I grab it back off you. It's just going to.
Got to be considered of. I didn't recognise him before.
Right. Okay. So while people are queuing to get out of the field, let's see who we can speak to. Chris, we've not spoken to Chris yet.
Okay.
Hello, mate.
How's it going, mate? You alright?
All right. So this is Chris Neville from Manchester and from Bury People's Assembly. But you're involved in all kinds of other things as well, aren't you, Chris? Is there anything, a specific thing that's brought you here today?
Yeah, well, I mean,
we're a metre away. If you want to take if you want to take your mask off,
oh, right,
you're
okay,
a metre away
cool.
from it.
Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of Unite too, but I'm in a different sector. I'm in the service industry, but I mean, I'm here today because I think this is a massively important struggle that's going on. I mean, there was some brilliant speeches there, and they alluded to how many workers are getting fired and rehired over this last year, especially under COVID, like 1 in 10 workers. So yeah, I mean, I'm just here to show my solidarity, and I think it's amazing actually how many people have turned out. I mean, all the workers themselves. When we turned up, I've got a video for you, Rafe, of it, but when we turned up in the Cavalcade, like, everyone lying in the streets with the Unite flags and everything, I thought it was brilliant. But yeah, I mean, I'm just, I think it's brilliant to see, and I'm looking forward to this march that we're going to go on now.
Well, I am going to put a little film together of this, not just the live stream, because the visuals are amazing. Like you say, it's so great to be speaking to people and seeing all of this. I mean, this kind of so many red flags. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was saying the other day, I mean, I bet it's been a long time since you had like hundreds of striking workers kind of walking down the streets of Cheetham Hill like this, if it's ever happened before. So, I mean, I think that's, it's quite, obviously the fact that they've had to go on strike isn't good, but I think it's quite promising because it's, it's showing that people are willing to take industrial action and stand up, and to get out there with all these Unite flags and the Samba band, it's going to be a bit of a spectacle.
And have you got anything? I know you're an active branch of the People's Assembly. Have you got anything coming up that we should know about?
Well, yeah, obviously there's the big day of action in June. I can't remember the exact date, unfortunately.
26th, I believe, without any prompting.
Yeah, 26th of June, and we're going to be trying to get some transport sorted, hopefully, to get people down from Manchester. Get your union branches to pass motions of support and send people down. Your Labour Party, whatever you're in, join us on that day, because it's, let's make this as big as we can. And it's really timely with this police and crime bill that's going through as well.
Thanks very much, mate. That's brilliant. Well, I will see you at that rally, if not before. So, hello. So just make sure. Yeah, there you are. Hiya. You're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page, and Eddie tells me, what is it? You're standing for a position?
Yeah, I'm standing for the local council elections for the Communist Party in Longside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm obviously here in support of the Go North West bus strikers. The fire and rehire tactics that they're using, and the working longer hours for no extra pay is, of course, unacceptable. In our view, the essential public services should be used to serve the community and not used to make profit for the wealthy few. As a councillor, I will work with the unions and the People's Assembly to fight for public ownership of essential services, of the rights of workers to fair pay and fair conditions.
And what's your name?
Aaron Andrew.
Nice one, Aaron. And so I guess we've seen with the student protests, and we've seen with the Kill the Bill, we've seen a bit of a resurgence in supporters of communism in Manchester recently. What's got you involved, and what is it that you think is attracting people to the communist flag?
Well, I think I mean, certainly in my lifetime, capitalism's not really been doing us many favours. Things have been getting progressively worse with austerity and the way the government's been treating us. And I think more and more people are realising that we need to try something new.
Okay, and was there a specific incident that got you involved?
Nothing in particular. I just gradually saw, austerity and what they were doing with the students and upping the fees and stuff. That's when I very first got interested in sort of seeing what we can do to counteract it.
And you think you might keep your deposit?
I'm hoping so, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, mate, thanks for talking to us. Good luck.
Cheers.
Okay. You're right there, guys. You want to talk to us? Great. Hiya.
Do you want the mask? What about the mask?
You don't need the mask on because I'm a metre away.
Okay, so right, yeah.
So you're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Good.
What's brought you here today?
Well, to support the bus drivers in their fight, which is everybody's fight, because it's important that people have the right to organise in a trade union, and the company involved here is out to bust the unions. It's a fight for everybody. And the other things have been mentioned. It's also an attack on public transport. By being here today, we're supporting the privatised companies being taken back into public ownership, being expanded, and generally that's another thing linked here. I see we've got people supporting action against climate change. It's all linked together. It's a big campaign, and there are many big issues at stake.
It really is. It's interesting, isn't it, that of all of the issues that have brought so many different groups together, it's buses.
It's
buses.
Yes, that is a bit ironical, isn't it? Just the ordinary bus, the humble bus, has brought people together.
And I suppose when we're seeing asset stripping, which is basically what's going on, yes, of the things that keep us ticking over in our lives, like the bus, I guess that's something that we need to fight for, isn't it?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And maybe this will wake people up, because we do need waking up as to what's going on. It's not just going to get better by itself. People are going to have to take action. Sensible action, sensible protest. Persistence is omnipotent.
Unignorable action. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
You will find the wind just puts you around a lot.
Hiya.
Hello.
You want to talk to us while you're waiting to go through? So you're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Oh, hello, People's Assembly Facebook page and everyone watching.
That's a great speech.
Thank you.
And it was a great speech because you're clearly pretty pissed off.
I'm not very happy with this whole situation, as you can gather. Companies shouldn't be treating workers in this way, and especially not in the middle of a pandemic. Bus drivers have disproportionately died because of COVID, and this is how they're being treated by their employer. It's a disgrace at any time, but all the more so just now.
I mean, it's just occurred to me really that this is a kind of a localised asset strip that people can actually see happening in front of their eyes. So clearly something that's affecting them directly.
Yeah, I think so. I think the whole issue of buses and public transport just needs pulling apart now and putting back together. Who's benefiting from these companies that behave like this? The fares are exorbitant. The bus routes are being shut down. It's not based on what people need, and it's not based on the good of the workers. So, and from what someone was saying earlier, it doesn't even appear to be based on profit in this particular case. But that's what the whole model is based around, and it needs pulling apart and putting back together.
And we've got this ridiculous situation where Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is trying to do something about it and can't because of the legal situation.
Oh, that's right. I mean, it's just ridiculous that this was ever allowed to happen, but I think his recent statements are very important, that he is going to try and do what is possible to do. Just let me mind me.
Okay, I'll let you do your banner. Thank you very much, and really great speech. Thanks, Jerry. I'm all right, mate.
Last time I saw you, we were rioting in the middle of a riot.
Okay, so it's all right. No, you're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page, and this is the superb Jerry O'Gorman from Middleton. What have you been up to, Jerry?
We went down to Manchester today on the Kill the Bill march. Another great turnout, and it's great to come up here as well and support this. I've received more details about actually what's been going on, in the actual dispute itself, about getting coaches out and the tactics to enable them to win the dispute. Trying to delay the coaches coming out, so it's delays them basically.
Great, and this is amazing, isn't it? So many people here, and such a lovely. It's a lovely day for a bit of activism, isn't it?
Hope. That's what it is. It's a bit of hope. Like today down in Manchester, another great turnout. No trouble, but loads of young people there again, and they're not letting it drop, and it carries on. So it's good to see, definitely. Some resistance.
Fantastic. You're absolutely right. Smell of hope. Let's see if we can grab a word with Karen. Hello, Karen.
I'll take this off now. I can't speak with this on.
Yes. Hey Karen, great speech.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good to be here. Yeah.
Isn't it brilliant to be out?
Yeah. There was just loads of people. The Cavalcade, we had lots of noise, and then we've come out all these people who are really out here to support all these bus workers against fire and ReHire. It's really inspiring to see that happening.
Well, they've just gone off on a little walk around, but yeah, I'm kind of. I think maybe I'm just. I've spent so much time in the house on my own. I'm not used to all of these people. But it is very inspiring. And of all the issues that's brought people in Manchester together, it's buses.
I know.
How weird is that?
I know, and I think it's really that sense of injustice, isn't it? That Manchester people, its history and everything, don't like injustice to workers. And when they're trying to drive down the wages, the terms and conditions of workers in this way, I think fire and ReHire is really getting to people. It kind of symbolises everything, doesn't it?
This hypocrisy is so clear, isn't it? When they go, the clap for key workers, and as somebody was saying from the stage, the key workers are either getting no help or very little help, and as you say, they've been disproportionately affected.
I don't think that the Tory government are quite liked that we saw them as key workers and so important, but they are, and they always have been. So it's really good, and we need to keep that going, really, to show how valuable these workers are. Bus workers, NHS workers, care workers, all those good people that, shop workers, everyone that's kept us going. It's so important, and they deserve a decent pay, they deserve decent conditions, so I think we need to keep fighting for that.
Well, and you do too, don't you? Because you're an NHS employee, so you're looking at a ridiculous, measly 1%. It's no surprise people are pissed off, really. So
it's that 1% is an insult, and it's there's some so there's a lot of workers now in the NHS that are really, really burnt out, have suffered trauma, and worked through the pandemic and really gave everything they could. And so it's a massive insult to then offer 1% to workers that over the last 11 years under the coalition and then the Tories have had, up to, sort of 15 to 20% cost of living. We're saying it's 20% cost of living, decrease in wages to what we could have had before.
And I mean, we've not really seen each other, certainly not in real life, for a while. But quietly, it was slipped out a couple of months ago that actually the Lansley Act hasn't worked. The 2012 Tory reforms of the NHS have failed, and they're going to have to be reviewed. And that represents a huge amount of wasted effort and money, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's not surprising when everything had to just keep on, tender it out. Services, NHS services were being tendered out all the time, and that process was a lot of time, a lot of money, and also a lot of private providers coming into the NHS, which is the other thing. It's being privatised by stealth. So that's a really worrying thing. But this Act actually is still quite worrying because it doesn't get rid of the private providers, and the private providers are still coming into our precious NHS. And that means people are doing the services, the bosses are doing that for profit. Whereas at the moment, when we've got our NHS, it's not, it's for the public, and that any money goes back into the NHS, which won't happen, sort of under the Tories. There's no way we're going to get that publicly owned, publicly run NHS we need.
I think that's one of those points that we have to keep making, isn't it? That public money is more accountable than private money. Whatever they tell you about the benefits of privatisation, it's not, when whoever it is, Philip Green or we've got Dido Harding at the moment, absolutely creaming the public purse. In fact, it's when it's publicly owned, there's scrutiny, we can vote, there's democracy involved, and we're not seeing any of those things now.
I think COVID's really revealed that, hasn't it? Because we saw these really lucrative health contracts, being, farmed out without any scrutiny to these. I mean, look at that now where Test and Trace, it didn't even work, 22 billion on something that didn't work. So you're completely right, we need scrutiny and we need it, well, like I said, I think we need it publicly. And I think public services, health services, need to be publicly run and publicly owned. Competition, there's no place for it. And as we're seeing, whenever they do get privatised out, we just see that we get lowered. The workers' pay, they have to have lower pay, lower terms and conditions, and also to win the contracts, they make the workers pay.
It's fucking outrage. Sorry, excuse my French. Thanks, Karen. And I'll see you soon. We've got a demo in London on the 26th of June, so we've got that coming up. I'm just going to have a quick word with John Defo.
Is this your final fling as the Salford Star?
So John's referring. Let me show you. So John is referring to this that I'm wearing.
Look at his T-shirt.
Because the Salford Star, which has been going for about 15 years,
yes, it has.
Is finally closing its doors. So, which for lefties, for activists around Manchester, Greater Manchester, it's.
We're going to try and keep it going, but.
Okay, and
that's another story.
Come on, John, talk to the people. So you are on the People's Assembly Facebook page live.
Is that where I am today?
That's where you are. That's where you are today.
Very nice. It's a very rare occasion for me to be out in the open air. Actually, I'm not. My face has not seen much sunshine, so I've got my mask just in case.
Well, can you tell us about? So you've been an activist around Manchester and Salford for many years.
50 years.
What vibe are you getting at the moment to do with the pandemic and to do with how people are feeling after a year of being locked in?
I think that people are I think they're raring to go, to be honest. I think that's what it is. I think that people are, they're a bit frustrated that they're not able to do anything. And I think that people, soon as people get the second jabs and things ease up a little bit, I think we might find more and more people will be on the streets demonstrating.
I think we just need to step back a bit so we don't get run over by a bus. What with it being a bus depot?
Is it a police car? Yeah, because they like running me over. No, it isn't, unfortunately. Yeah, so from that point of view, I think that we need to get ready to organise. I mean, I know we're having Zoom meetings and I know we're doing things of that nature, but that doesn't replace what's happened here today, for instance. I mean, what's happened here today is fantastic, that we can turn this many people out safely, all get our masks, keeping social distance, and so on and so on. So yeah.
And what do you think about this police and criminal evidence bill? This new one?
Absolutely terrible. I think the woman in Warrington should be suspended. I mean, they soon suspended people.
Oh, is that about the travellers' comments you made?
Terrible. That leaflet. I mean, they've scrapped the leaflet. The leaflet's been torn up and thrown in the bin. But that's not the point. For somebody to turn around, an educated person to turn around and say that they didn't know what the word incursion meant. No, sorry. She's got a bit of history as well, but I'm not going to go into that. She's got a bit of history, and shall we say, she's getting away with it, and she shouldn't be getting away with it. She wants bringing to book. I've got a lot of time for the traveller community. I've been involved with them for a long time. When I worked at the Morning Star, for instance, I used to work with a lot of them down at the various trade union conferences, and they always had a table. They put some form of meeting on, and so on and so on. They're serious people, and to start turning around and saying, "Oh, they're a bunch of tarmackers," that's what I've heard, and I just think to myself, wow.
Well, and I guess we're sort of seeing because we've shifted so firmly into the age of identity politics. Yes. We're seeing a lot of people on the left also fall for that, but it is a trap, isn't it? Yeah, really,
very much so. I mean, we've had it all along, haven't we? We had it over the anti-Semitism, and it's took a lot of people from the Jewish community that's in the Labour movement to come out, and still people are not taking their word for it. They're turning around and saying, no, sorry, you're wrong. We know that there's anti-Semitism. The next thing it'll be racism, and it'll be Islamophobia and things of that nature. So, yeah, we've just got, really at the end of the day, we've got to get this. The left have got to sort themselves out, because if they don't sort themselves out, I'll be dead before we see socialism.
And are you seeing any rays of hope? Where are you looking? I mean, we've got the NIPs. We've got the Northern Independence Party started up in Hartlepool. We've got Andy Burnham here standing as.
They won't be getting my vote. That's a certainty. Yeah, and all this bullshit.
Solidarity.
There'll be no solidarity with Andy Burnham. He sold us out a long time ago. So anyway.
That's brilliant, John. Thank you so much for talking to us.
We've got the president of Salford TUC there.
Excellent.
Paul.
Do you want to say hello? Hiya. Well, let's just as long as we're not getting run over, I just want to try and keep an eye out for the returning walkers. I guess we'll see. Do you think, are they coming up that corner there? Do you have any idea?
There's the tag van. Tag van's on it now.
Oh. Yeah, should we just go and stand on the corner there? We might see. It's such a wonderful sight, all of those the Unite flags and everything. Okay. So I'm hoping either down that way or that way.
Swing round.
Yeah, we should have some company. So, what's your name and your organisation?
My name's Paul Kelly. I'm the president of Salford Trades Union Council.
Okay, and what is it that you feel is going on here that you wanted to come out and support?
Well, really, it's what I was on strike for over 36 years ago when I was a miner. Basically saying if they get away with what they've done with us on to the miners, they'll do it to everyone in the whole country. They make life intolerable for the working class, and they'll be going cap in hand for work. That's if you can get work and you're not blacklisted. I mean, what they would call a trouble card, or basically being a trade union and standing up for rights and conditions at terms that have been fought for over many years.
I think you might be a bit of a troublemaker. What do you think?
Yes, I'm a troublemaker. I must admit I am a troublemaker. I'm proud to be a troublemaker.
We need them all at the moment, don't we? I can see you've got your NUM badge there. That's cool. And this is Agecroft, I think, wasn't it? This is, yes, I used to live near there, and I mean, I've heard you speak. You had a bag of coal. You donated a bag of coal to the Salford Star auction that I was at. I mean, obviously, there's no mining left in Salford.
Not coal, though. Not coal.
Right.
Still there.
Well, so where do you see so is your job, do you think, in supporting other actions that are going on?
Well, absolutely. Solidarity is everything in the trade union movement. And if we'd have had that solidarity in 1984 and 85, we wouldn't be in the position we're in again today. Because that's what that strike was about. It wasn't about money. It was about saving jobs, pits, communities, and saving trade union way of life that had been, let's say, helped and prospered for the working classes from the introduction of the welfare state. And that's what it was about as well, getting rid of the welfare state, good terms and conditions, and the smashing of trade unionism. Let's get it right. These people would have us back in the dark ages, where we were given no rights, no terms and conditions, and basically bullied by bosses.
I guess people don't really put those things together, that the miners' strike was really about smashing a movement. It wasn't never about coal. It was about removing the means of protest so they could get away with doing all the things that they've done in the last 40 years.
That's right. I mean, the pits weren't closed on any environmental issues. They were closed basically to smash the NUM, the National Union of Mine Workers, because basically it was the vanguard of the trade union movement. They brought down the Tories in 1972 and 74 in strikes, and they just didn't like the idea of workers having power to be able to control the economy in the interest of working people. And that's what gutted them so much. That's why Thatcher was so hated the miners, She was a horrible person. And this was planned before 1979, before she got in office with the Ridley plan. They actually prepared well in advance to smash the miners, smash the union of the miners, and smash trade union discipline and progress.
Well, I mean, I was just talking to, he looks about 12 years old to me, but I guess he's over 18 because he's standing as a councillor for the Communist Party in Longsight. I guess so if you were a young person now, with, as we've just discussed, the trade union movement's not what it was. He's found the Communist Party. Where else can people look for good ideas and for help? I mean, what do you think?
At the moment, it's there used to be a big array when I was a kid. There was Spartacus, there was all sorts of left groups. I can't remember most of them. And you could take your pick of which sort of Trotskyite organisation you want to belong to. You want to try and change the world. I think at the moment it's still a fundamental issue that basically I would stand on socialist principles, because that's as simple as that, and wherever you do find socialist principles, you should support them.
Well, and of course the People's Assembly's always there for people to get involved with. Manchester, Bury, got quite a few branches that are going at the moment. Thank you very much, mate.
Okay, fine, thank you.
And good luck.
Yeah, keep on keeping on it.
Yeah, man. Okay, so we don't know where they've gone.
They'll be back here.
They will be back here.
You know what? Maybe
do you think so?
Maybe they've all been kettled. The drug dealers not coming out here unless you buy drugs.
That's right. And Evan stood there. I'll represent you.
Mate,
don't worry.
do you want to talk to us? So we are live on the People's Assembly Facebook page.
Yep.
So you tell us who you are, what organisation you're with, what you're doing here today?
Yeah, I'm Lawrence Chapel-Gill. I'm a Regional Coordinating Officer with Unite the Union in the North West. I've been working with the reps and ACAS, trying to resolve the issue with Go North West.
Well, is it Richie? Richie gave us a bit of a summary. Can you go into tell us a little bit more about what you've come across, what you've found?
I think the general description would have to be that to say that we haven't been working with the company would be wrong. As Richie said in his contribution on the field earlier, we did have meetings with them last year, where we've accepted that the company is losing money. There's no getting away from that. But I think where we differ is the company expect the drivers to foot the complete bill in total. Proposals have been made by the union to help the depot turnaround plan, as it's called, but unfortunately the proposals we've made have been deemed by the company to not be adequate. Prior to Christmas, we had a meeting with the company where we thought the situation was a lot more positive than what it had been. Even the managing director himself said that it had been a really good meeting, the best meeting we'd had. And then, hey presto, fairly soon into the new year, he started bringing the drivers in one by one, told the union that the process with us was over, and there you go. We are where we are today.
Well, tone deaf doesn't really cover it. One of the key things that is coming up at the moment with the Manchester mayoral election is this drive to end the current contracts and to end deregulation. And don't the owners of the company realise that they've shown themselves to be, partial actors? I mean, they're bad players in this, aren't they?
Well, we believe that the company have exposed themselves, arguably at a really bad time for them as well. But that's why today was really important. Rallies like this, the support that the strikers are getting, not from just across the region, but across the whole union and across the movement. Fire and ReHire, is becoming more and more discredited. Politicians of all shades are also agreeing that it should be outlawed. So that's what we need. We need the Fire and ReHire, this dismissal and re-engage legislation, to be outlawed. The company, at times have emphatically denied that this is Fire and ReHire, but that's what it is. When you tell somebody that unless you agree to the new terms and conditions and the new contracts that are being offered, they'll be sacked. And then they've got the opportunity of being re-engaged with the new terms that the company are trying to get through. That is Fire and ReHire. That's what it is. And Go North West can emphatically deny it as much as they want, but that's what it is.
Well, I mean, I've seen this. I don't know what it is about buses in Manchester and the owners of the buses in Manchester, but they really aren't doing it for the people. I mean, they're really not. There has to be a communal element, doesn't it? You're part of a community.
Well, I think that's why this dispute is so important as well, because if Go North West are allowed to go about their business in which they have been unchallenged, then it provides a possible direction for other employers. That's why it's really important that this challenge is maintained and increased, so that we demonstrate that this is not how we expect things to be done. This is not the approach we expect other employers to take. So it really, really is an important issue.
And we're hearing a little bit more militancy, I guess, from union leaders at the moment, or a little bit more anger, certainly, from the likes of Dave Ward at the CWU, Howard Beckett, Steve Turner, those kind of guys, saying that we have to stand up to this because this taking advantage of the pandemic really needs to be called out. And there's a lot of it going on, isn't there?
Well, I think employers are using what I call the COVID climate, if you like, to try and drive through their agendas, which they wouldn't necessarily try and drive through previously, because they're preying on the insecurities and uncertainties amongst workers in these difficult times. So yeah, action has to be taken, steps need to be taken, and there needs to be resistance across the whole of the trade union movement and across the whole labour movement.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because there's never been a more important time for solidarity, but there's also never been a sharper schism within the left. I mean, I don't know what to say about that, really. But it must be very difficult for people to know who to support with the elections coming up and all that. I don't know if you've got anything to say about that. Not really. It's difficult, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much. Cheers, man.
Thanks.
And good luck in the dispute.
Cheers.
Okay, so I've no idea where they've gone. What's brought you out today?
Guilt of not doing it. Don't you dare.
No, you are live. We're still rolling. I just want to keep it going, folks, just because we're going to have either from there or there, we're going to have like a few hundred people.
Well, wherever the few hundred people are, they're certainly not down there. I've had a look down the road.
Right.
that one's out the equation.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to the field. Find somebody there. Nice one.
Kevin, I do have a life outside of this as well.
Oh yeah. We're live on the People's Assembly Facebook page. Do you want to have a word with us?
If you want.
Great. Sorry, don't mean to scare anybody off. Nice one. So, can you just stand
here?
Yeah, perfect. Great.
Want to move around a bit further?
I think you're okay. We heard you speak. We've been filming all of it this afternoon. And I've just spoken to with the regional Unite guy, so we've heard a little bit more about that. But are you a bus driver yourself, or?
No, I'm full-time official, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Okay. Well, can you tell us, what do you think it's been like for your drivers going through this last year with all of this going on at the same time?
Well, to be fair, the drivers have stuck with it all the way through, because up until December, people were hopeful for a negotiated settlement. In spite of the threat of fire and ReHire being in the background, no one actually believed it'd be actioned at all. It was only when the company realised they weren't going to get everything they asked for that it was initiated, after the 23rd of December. And from there on in, I think people became fearful. They were intimidated, they felt bullied. The concern was for the families, obviously, the future security. So they were effectively bullied into signing up to these contracts because of fire and ReHire. At the same time, when we balloted for industrial action to oppose it, the vote we got was 87% turnout, which was significant. 87 vote for industrial action, which was massive.
And it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I don't think people understand how difficult it is now to get a vote and organise it. There are so many hoops to jump through. The legislation is really onerous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is onerous, but we're not unfamiliar with it, because we have quite a lot industrial action ballots in the Northwest. But it was the time, because of the way the employer had initiated fire and ReHire, gave people 8 days to sign up to the contracts. What we did, we condensed the balloting period down to 2 weeks for 500 people, which is unusual. So we were really concerned at the outset whether we were going to get the turnout over the threshold, and then what type of result we would get. And I have to say, everybody understood how important it was.
So it's about 500 drivers, is it?
Yeah, 500, yeah.
Well, because they must have pretty much all been here today.
I hope so. I mean, it did look like that today, and it, like everything we've asked the drivers to do, they've been magnificent. Monitoring what's going on, recording things that were going on, talking to people out in the community, talking to the public, travellers, explaining what the issues were. Really, lots of engagement about not just with each other, but external, and that's been fantastic.
Well, I mean, when I arrived and saw on the main road just behind us, and saw all of the flags, loads of car horns, loads of people honking the horns, shouting, bibbing support. And I mean, but this must be impacting on their lives. It must be harder for them to get a bus, I suppose. But they're showing their support for the.
Absolutely. We have had a couple of complaints. There's you can't get away from that. You can't please everybody. The majority has been really excellent support from the community. Just an interesting point, when we've been involved in ACAS with negotiations, the MD's been sitting in his office and all we can hear in the background is horns beeping in the background, which for us is music to our ears, and I hope it's been really frustrating for him and upsetting, but it's the dispute itself, it's hard. It's hard to be out in a continuous industrial action, not knowing what the end is, and dealing with an employer that is really aggressive. I mean, we've dealt with difficult employers all our lives, but this particular practice that is employed here is vicious. It's anti-worker. You've got to ask yourself, what does he expect to happen in the future? What type of relationship is he expecting people to come in to be happy? Well, that's clearly not going to be the case. So I think the company have got themselves in a real difficulty because the workers are solid, absolutely solid, and they've got the support of massive support all around the country. So for us, it's a key dispute, one that we can't afford to lose.
I like that. You're giving us a real vision of what it's like to be in the room with a guy. So, I mean, what do you think his motivation is really? I mean, you know, you're saying they're not making any money, they've not been making any money, but this isn't going to save them anything because everybody now hates them. So...
He prides himself, if you look at his profile, he prides himself on being a transformation manager. That's his field of expertise. I've never experienced a transformation like this into the 19th century, a bit of serfdom creeping in, touching your forelock every time you come in. I think he's put a plan together, he sold that to group, they've employed him to do that, and it's gone disastrously wrong for him because he's overestimated what he could achieve in the transformation. The garage, or the depot, requires new buses. The age of his fleet is 13 and a half years, 15 years in some cases. It hasn't had any investment in it. They bought it for a discounted rate, and they put £3 million worth of debt straight on it as a group charge to be paid at some point in the future. Why would you do that on a business that's already making money? It's been set up to be drive the cost down, be a low-cost operator, and to be there for franchising when franchising kicks in, so they become the preferred operator. We can't do that because we then get in the spiral where other decent employers feel the only way they can compete is to have a race to the bottom.
Well, this is the subtext of this. Is in Manchester for about 5 years, there's been a campaign to bring back regulation of buses and bring them back into local authority control. And I think it was one of the things that Andy Burnham campaigned on last time, and now it's something that he's campaigning on this time as well. Yeah. It shows how complex this area is. I mean, are you concerned that when the franchising model, whatever the new franchising model is, companies like this will get in there, will get a fair shake? Is that something we need to keep an eye on?
Absolutely, yeah. Because we do have decent employers in the industry who want to work with unions, want to support workers, wouldn't attack them in any shape or form like this. And yet, you know, we have a newcomer to the market, effectively in the northwest. Bought a business that was on its knees, promised investments. He actually told us from day one it was going to be a 3 to 5 year turnaround, and they were going to invest in the business. Well, they haven't done that. I think we've got to watch the way things develop very, very carefully. We are supportive of franchising because it stops the wage rates being undercut and things like this taking place across the whole of the sector. So.
Do you know, there are so many other things to worry about. There are so many things that have gone wrong. I can't believe I'm doing buses. My first live stream for the People's Assembly, I was in the middle of Wilmslow Road about 5 years ago at the Finglands depot there when they were in dispute, and they were just having money, again, just stolen off them, you know. And now here I am 5 years later doing another bus dispute. And you're like, hang on a minute, what about the schools? What about mass unemployment? What about education? What about all of these other terrible things that have been going on in the city? You know,
squeezed out. And you know, the other thing is the schools, underfunding of schools, other public services. This industry's been massively supported by the taxpayer, massively supported. So they haven't actually lost any money this year. They will break even because the taxpayer is going to make up any shortfall. So the claim that it needs to be dealt with immediately and all this type of stuff, it's just not true at all. There are things that need to be dealt with, and I think the drivers have supported that change, and we presented the change programme to the employer that says that's our contribution, that's what we can do. you need to do your bit now. Invest, have better fuel efficient buses, green energy, better scheduling, better network for the community, because they'll operate at what's commercially viable for them, not the needs of the community. And that's another aspect of franchising that's really important to us, that the community will get access to affordable transport with support, drivers' terms and conditions being supported in the way they should, not attacked. It's incredible, absolutely incredible that we've got an employer acting like in this way in this city.
Well, it makes me. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in catering. Worked for some of the big catering franchises, and that description of bus drivers being called in on their own without representation to go and essentially have the frighteners put on them by management. We're hearing about that now because these people are unionised. But you look at, McDonald's have got some unionisation now, but you look at other organisations, the delivery drivers, for example. I think that it's kind of incumbent on the big unions to try and get those places unionised, isn't it?
I absolutely agree. Hospitality and retail, food retail, are two areas that needs to be addressed because the exploitation there is massive. And the franchising of the likes of Burger King and McDonald's makes it more difficult, but easily it also makes it more manageable for a trade union where you're targeting one particular franchisee rather than the whole of McDonald's. You can apply pressure in a particular way. So the hotel and catering trade, again, it's mainly young people in transient work, fully exploited, got no rights, and if you don't know your rights, you haven't got any. So we've got to get the message. All unions. I'd rather have a person in a union than not be in any union. So I'm not arguing from a Unite perspective. I'm talking about organising labour in a particular way that their interests are protected, and that's what we've got to do. All unions. One thing about Fire and ReHire, it talks about how the trade union movements have got to respond as a collective and to apply political pressure to bring about the change on the statute books that's needed, and it should be done. Why isn't it? So we need to get the MPs to work as hard as these strikers to bring about that change.
It's a crucial time for working people, isn't it?
Absolutely, and we're not fearful, but we're mindful that there's still a lot of change to come when furloughing takes place and it's tapered off at the end of the year. We've already seen in the finance sector in Manchester, which is an important sector for us, with derecognition. Market Study have come in and bought Lloyd's. Taken over the co-op, not Lloyd's, it's co-op, and they've derecognised us. They've given us written notice of derecognition, again, which we're going to have to fight. So the attacks are everywhere. The point I made before, Fire and ReHire, get yourself injected with a vaccine, otherwise we're going to terminate your employment. People have got no control over their own bodies now, so we've sort of commodified workers, made them no different than a bus, piece of machinery, something like that. They're not. They're just factors of production, nothing else, no more, no less.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Richie.
It's Richie, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great.
Okay.
Nice one, mate.
Take care.
Great. Good luck with this. Good luck with the dispute.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I thought I heard some drumming. There's some drums. Can you hear them? Okay, so I think you can just see them. They're all going back round the other way. Okay. Okay, so it's brilliant to be out. Thanks very much for watching, and don't forget the 26th of June for the next big demo in London after lockdown ends. Stay safe, everybody. See you soon. Bye.